We can start with
Good morning to all our Good morning to all our dear colleagues from aviation industry who have joined us today in this meeting. Welcome to the complimentary workshop on aircraft disinfection. I am Vikas Arya, working as a senior sales engineer for Aerochamp Aviation International Private Limited. Our keynote speaker for today is Dr. Praveen Srivastava. He is a noted speaker in aircraft interiors and aviation MRO. Dr. Srivastava has a bachelor degree in science along with DIM, double MBA, PhD and LLB. He is doctorate in aviation MRO and carries vast experience in commercial and corporate private aircraft interior completions, installations and repairs. He has held several senior management positions for Club 1 Air Group, Interior Aero Services, Airworks, Epsilon, and Indamar in Singapore, Dubai, and USA. He is the founder and CEO of Aerochamp Aviation International Private Limited, India, and also the Director of Global Business Development for US-based company Omnivia Interiors LLC. Now, I request all our attendees to mark their presence by providing information under Zoom chat section as per the format given in the guidelines for participants. I would now request Dr. Praveen Srivastava to share his thoughts to all our colleagues joined here with us today.
Thank you, Vikas, for an introduction about me. Thank you for nice words. And hello, everybody. Very good morning to all of you.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. May I request everybody to put themselves on mute if possible, so that will make the meeting more effective. It's good to see everybody after this lockdown. You know, the aviation industry is in real doldrums, and we all are a little scared about, many of them are scared about the job. We are scared about how the flying is going to start. So I thought of taking this session, and if you all feel, I can continue this session every week with some new topic to safeguard the lives, to safeguard people from getting infected, and also help people in safeguarding their jobs as well. That is equally important. So I will start with my presentation because this session is limited to 40 minutes and we will allow participants to ask questions as well. So let me start the session with sharing my screen. I hope all of you can see my screen here. So let me start with this. I'm going to today talk about aircraft disinfection. Now, what is disinfection? So in any kind of situation like this, which is unprecedented, unheard of in the past, never seen in our lifetime, for this is a very challenging time for all of us. First, we have to safeguard ourselves. Then we have to safeguard the employers, especially the general aviation industry, the passengers who are going to fly on the business jets. So how do we make sure that we do this appropriately, and how do we handle this appropriately? So we will start with the first slide, which is, this is divided into 3 segments. First is cleaning. So what does cleaning do? It removes all the loose particles and prepares the surface for disinfection. So cleaning is very, very important. What happens if we do not clean? Then the disinfection will not be effective and it will not have long-lasting effect. Then comes sanitization. So what is sanitization? Sanitization is a process of reducing the contamination from the surface. And then comes disinfection. What is disinfection? Disinfection is a process of completely, thoroughly cleaning and killing any kind of germs, infectious material, virus, bacteria, and other things which may be on the surface. Now, what is a surface? A surface is a substrate on which any kind of contamination or virus, bacteria, germs, and other things grow. So moving on to the next slide. So the same thing, we are trying to explain it further. So there are various types of cleaners available into the market. Now we should usually prefer aviation approved cleaners because aviation approved cleaners are approved to be used on various kind of substrates or the surfaces. So what does a cleaner do? The cleaner reduces or removes dust, it removes soil. May I request people who have not muted themselves to please mute so that my presentation can be more effective. So cleaners remove dust, it removes soil, it removes impurities, and it also degreases the surface. This is very important. What is grease? It's any oil contamination which is there in the air, it settles down on surface. So we have seen most of the times, even in our house, that if there is a table, why do we do the dusting every day? Because otherwise it will get sticky. And what is that stickiness? It is the grease. It is the oil in the atmosphere which settles down and then finally attracts dust to sit on it. So it is important that the surface is degreased. Then comes sanitizer. Sanitizer reduces bacteria. Now, please note the word reduces. It is not killing. So sanitizer reduces bacteria, reduces fungi, reduces germs, and cleans the surface. So in cleaner, we degrease the surface, while sanitizing, it cleans the surface. Now, next stage is disinfectant or disinfection. In disinfection, the approved disinfectant, it kills microorganisms, it kills bacteria and viruses, it kills germs and pathogen, and protects the surface. It gives the surface a protective layer, which depending upon what kind of disinfectant you are using, lasts for up to 4 hours or 5 hours. So there is a protection on top of it, but anybody who's claiming that it may protect the surface for more than 1 day or 2 days is a wrong claim. No, there is no disinfectant on this earth which can protect for more than 4 hours. Next. So what is disinfection? Disinfection and sterilization are both decontamination processes, because any surface which gets contaminated by either touch or through the air or whatever, it has to be decontaminated. Now, we all have seen in the hospitals, in the operation theater, they sterilize. Why? Because there should not be any contamination, there should not be any germ, there should not be any infectious bacteria or virus. So disinfectant plays the same role in an aviation industry or even on the ground. So disinfection is the process of eliminating or reducing harmful microorganisms from inanimate objects and surfaces. So any object that is cleaned with the disinfectant or a disinfectant is applied on top of it, it will kill the germs and microorganism, thus protecting the surface and inhibiting any kind of further infection. So then let us see the process of disinfection. How does it really happen? So in the first stage, if you see, the surface is contaminated, supposedly. So we suppose that the surface is contaminated, we presume. Now this is an untreated surface. Anything which is contaminated and we have not treated it with any kind of a cleaner or sanitizer or disinfectant, it is an untreated surface. When the untreated surface comes into touch with a human being or any other material, it also contaminates that material. So it is important that it is clean. So what we do is, by cleaning it with aviation grade cleaner, we actually reduce the contamination. And then finally, we inhibit the growth of those germs by disinfecting it. So we apply a disinfectant which should be aviation grade. I'll explain you why aviation grade. And then if you see the kind of a funnel, it reduces the total number of particles of the germs or microorganisms on the surface, and thus the surface is now protected. So how are aviation grade cleaners and disinfectant different than the normal ones? So the normal one is, just give me a second. So that is AMS approved or WHO approved and other approvals. So what happens is, in approval, there are various types of approvals. The aircraft safety approval is AMS approval. WHO has its own formulation approvals. And then there are OEM approvals also. So those are the kinds of approvals that aviation approved cleaner or disinfectant has. Then comes the testing and certification. That is, there are flame retardant tests to be carried out on these approved material so that it is not prone to fire. Then there is substrate testing. That means all these material are tested on different kind of substrates, for just like it is tested on fabric, leather, carpet, paint,
composite, veneer.
Yeah, and veneer. Then there are different kind of other tests carried out for human safety, because you may have a very aggressive, you may have a very highly effective disinfectant, but what if it is not safe for human beings? What if you inhale it? We have heard of cases where a pest control was carried out in our neighborhood or in any other place, and people died out of it because they inhaled the pesticides. So this is something which is also equally important for disinfectant or any aviation grade cleaner. Then is procedure to disinfect aircraft interiors. Now, you should follow the correct procedure to clean, sanitize, and disinfect your aircraft interiors. This is very, very important. Now, what does the procedure mean? Means in most of the procedures, we specify that there is a crisscross movement of the disinfectant or the cleaner that we apply. Because in a fabric, in a leather, there are grains which are vertical and horizontal both. So if you clean it vertically but not horizontally, you may end up not cleaning the whole surface thoroughly. So it is advisable that you move it from top to bottom and left to right, or what we call it as a crisscross. And then aircraft manufacturers, this is very important, let us understand. The aircraft manufacturer, the OEM, whoever claims that he has approved a certain material, he approves those material only on presentation. That means if a disinfectant manufacturer takes that material to the aircraft manufacturer and requests him for approval, then he accords the approval. But that doesn't mean that's the only product which can be used on that particular aircraft, because all OEMs do not have testing facilities in-house for chemicals. So they outsource. So most of the times, the laboratories which carry out such testings are the ones which carry out other product testing as well. So there may be equivalent products which you should explore and see. So recommended procedure is thoroughly clean all exposed surfaces of cabin and cockpit. Then sanitize every person entering the aircraft, including the crew. It is very important so that there is no further contamination going in. Only a sanitized person should disinfect the aircraft. So the person who's going to disinfect the aircraft himself should not be contaminated or himself should not be infected. Then maintain the sanctum of your aircraft interiors. It is very important. Just like when we get into a temple or a church, in a temple, we remove our shoes, or when we go inside the kitchen, we don't wear shoes. So similarly, inside the aircraft, it is important to maintain the sanctum of the aircraft interiors. Then how to disinfect your aircraft? Further taking this point, is this the right way to disinfect? Is this the right way to disinfect? This one or this one? Now, I would say none of them, because if you see the people who are cleaning the aircraft or disinfecting the aircraft are not wearing gloves, or not wearing masks, and not wearing PPE. That means if they were contaminated, if they were infected, they would further infect the aircraft. And despite applying all the disinfectant material, the aircraft will still not be disinfected. So this is not done. So what is the right way? The right way is this. So this disinfectant has to be sprayed if you have a spray, possibly. And if you do not have a spray, you can put it in a spray bottle and spray the disinfectant and then wipe it off. Then you have the person who's going to disinfect the aircraft should wear gloves and PPE. Then at the end, once the aircraft is disinfected, and if there is a touch or if there is any doubt that any further surface needs to be cleaned or disinfected, the crew has to do it with a mask and the gloves on. And when the passenger enters or boards the aircraft, at that time, it is important that you disinfect or you sanitize the hands and other surfaces which may touch the aircraft of the passenger. It's a very good habit to form, so that furthermore, the contamination of the cabin is reduced. Now, I can see that we are running out of time. Probably somebody has logged in early, but never mind. What we can do is, if it gets disconnected, please connect back again and we can continue. So now, I am ready to take your questions. This was a brief session on how to decontaminate or disinfect the cabin. We will have a further elaborate session on this. So I'm ready to take questions. If we disconnect in between because of the time limit of 40 minutes, I request that you people can log in again and we will be there. We will log in immediately. So one by one, you can ask the questions to me.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Srivastava, for sharing your valuable insights and knowledge on the aircraft disinfection. We would now move on to our question and answer session. For the benefit of all our participants present here today, I would like to ask you some questions. So here it goes. Firstly, how many times should one disinfect their aircraft?
So disinfection is a process which usually should be carried out when the aircraft lands. And then the whole cabin has to be disinfected, the cockpit has to be disinfected, lav and the galley area has to be disinfected, and then we close the aircraft and leave it like that. In between, there is no need to go inside because otherwise the aircraft would get contaminated. And before the aircraft scheduled to be flying, we should once again disinfect the aircraft. So only 2 times. Now, what happens is, if the flying time is more than 4 hours, then it is advisable that you also disinfect the aircraft or in the air once at the time of flying. But other than that, you don't need to. Then there are wipes easily available. You can, the crew, both the cabin crew and the cockpit crew can keep the wipes with them. They can keep disinfecting once they feel that there is any touch or there is chance of any contamination, they can always clean it. So otherwise, the whole cabin and the galley doesn't need to be disinfected all the time.
Thank you. Second question is whether one should prefer an alcohol-based or water-based disinfectant and why?
So alcohol-based and water-based disinfectants are available in the market. I recommend water-based. Reason is, alcohol may have very different kind of reactivity with different kind of substrates and surfaces. So if you apply alcohol on a wood veneer surface, if you apply alcohol on leather, then what would happen is it will have its own impact and effect on the leather. So leather may get damaged. Carpet may get damaged because of the alcohol, because alcohol has a property of evaporating. It removes even the stains. So if it can remove the dye from the leather, it can remove dye from the fabric. So it is advisable that you use water-based, because water-based disinfectant will always have an active material, just like medicine. When you take the tablet, it has excipient and it has medicament. So medicament may be only like when you take the medicine, you see on the medicine it is written 1 gram. But when you take the medicine, that whole medicine is 10 grams. That means 1 gram is the actual medicine, which is called as medicament, and 9 grams is the excipient, just like for binding it, for making it into a tablet form. So similarly, in any disinfectant, the active ingredient is very little, and rest of all is solvent. Either it could be water or alcohol, but I would suggest that you should go for a water-based disinfectant.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions more. Does aviation grade disinfection have any order?
Oh, no, can you repeat it again? I couldn't catch it.
Yeah, so the question is,
Vikas, if you can repeat the question, please. Can anybody else ask the question, please? I think Vikas is offline. He will connect back. Does anybody has any other question? Because we are going to share a couple of things with you people. We are going to share the whole presentation. after this session, we are also going to share a SOP, what you need to follow. We are going to share the product literatures and the product descriptions, so you can go through them. And in case if you have questions which you could not ask during this session, you can always get back to us either on WhatsApp or through email, and we will be more than happy to answer your queries. There are technical issues I can see, but nevertheless, I think I'm able, I can see some known names. Vikas, can you hear me? Can you unmute and tell so that I know? Okay, great.
Yes.
Here, Vikas is
so
back.
we were in the question and answer section.
Yes,
so
please go ahead.
The question was, does the aircraft disinfectant have any odor?
Odor, most of the disinfectants are made in a manner that they don't carry any odor, because if there is an odor and if you apply, it's going to last in the cabin. Now, that may be very distracting or disturbing to the passenger. So most of the disinfectant, until they are alcohol based, because if it is alcohol based, then there will be a smell, the alcohol smell. Otherwise, most of the water-based disinfectants, they don't have any odor.
Okay. Just the last question right now. So what is the best practice of application to disinfect the aircraft?
So the best practice to apply the disinfectant is to either fog it or create a mist of it, or just spray it on any substrate. Now, remember, most of the well-known disinfectants which have AMS approval, WHO guidelines, and Boeing or Airbus approval are tested on different kind of substrates or different kind of surfaces, which means it is tested on plastics, it is tested on composite, it is tested on paint, it is tested on fabric, it is tested on leather, carpet, and every other surface. So what happens is these are neutral. They do not react with the substrate. They only disinfect the top surface of the substrate. So thus, it can be applied, it can be sprayed. Usually what the expert opinions are that you spray it, leave it for 2 minutes to settle down so that it impregnates or penetrates inside the substrate. And then with a very light hand, you wipe it with a clean lint-free cloth or microfiber. When you do this, you do not damage the surface. At the same time, you should not press it too hard, because if you press it too hard, you're going to remove all the disinfectant from the surface. So you should do it with a light hand, thus leaving a very thin layer of disinfectant to still be there on the surface. So by doing this, you actually end up creating a layer which protects it for next couple of hours. And you should do it, as I told right in the beginning, crisscross, left to right and top to bottom, and always do it like this. You take it like this, and then like this. So top to bottom and left to right, because there are various different kind of material which have their own grains. Now, for an example, I can show you. I am carrying an example of a aviation fabric. Now, if you see this fabric, this is woven, so it has weaving like this. Okay, so one yarn goes like this, the other yarn goes like this. So in between, like if you see, there is a junction where both yarns, the vertical and the horizontal ones, cross each other. That is a spot where most of the infection would be still there. So you have to spray it and then clean it crisscross, all the surface. Even on the leather, the same thing. If you see this leather, this is an aviation grade leather. So if you see it has a grain in between. Now what happens if you clean it only like this? Then the horizontal grain or the horizontal structure which it has got will never get cleaned. You only clean it like this. So when you clean it like this, even the horizontal one gets cleaned.
Okay.
So that's the right way to, yeah.
So one of our participants, Mr. Shrikant Somareddy, has asked, what is the settling period in order to show any reaction on leather or fabric once disinfectant is applied? So can you
I hope the question is settling period means the period required for the disinfectant to get active and remove the any germs. So it is ideally 1 minute. So you spray the disinfectant, leave it for a minute, and then wipe it with a light hand. When you do that, remember, you're still leaving a layer on top of it because most of the disinfectants have an active ingredient in it. So the active ingredient is still active when you have wiped it. So that is why if you see whether we spray or we use a disinfectant wipe, it's one and the same thing. The wipe is nothing but an absorbent material, absorbent non-textile material, or what we call it as a non-woven material, which is soaked into the disinfectant and then packed for convenience of use. So it is portable. So the cabin crew and the cockpit crew, the pilots can carry a couple of those wipes, keep it with them whenever they get time or whenever they feel it needs to be disinfected. They can just rub through all the places and it gets clean. Even some of the disinfectants which are approved and of a very good quality have no reactivity even on the avionics surfaces. That means the screen, the display units, you can still wipe it and nothing will happen to it.
Thank you, Dr. Srivastava, for an engaging question and answer session. Now, I would like to introduce Mr. Manish.
So
Mr. Manish has...
1 second, Vikas here. May I request others, if they have any question, please ask. Secondly, what we will give you an opportunity is also, if you are not able to ask any question now, you can mail it to us. And at the end of this session, Manish will share his email ID and we'll be more than happy to answer your queries, number one, because this is an unprecedented time we have never seen in our life. In my age of 50 years, I have never come across a time like this when I had to sit at home for 2 months. So none of us have seen. So let's fight it together. If anybody has a knowledge, please share it. And that is the best way. Now, what we will also do is, we will also share a copy of the SOP, which we have made on the basis of various research that we have carried out. Now, being a doctorate, I'm a researcher. So I keep carrying out various types of research on different topics internationally. I'm also engaged by various US companies and companies in the Middle East. So I have a SOP which we will share through email. So do remember to, in the chat box, do share your email IDs and phone numbers. So we will get back to you with all the queries that you may have or the documents that we have prepared as SOP for presentation, for any kind of product recommendation, we can do that. Yeah, go ahead, Vikas, please.
Yeah, so now I would like to introduce Mr. Manish Bhivankar. Mr. Manish has 25 years of experience. He holds a Bachelor of Commerce degree from Mumbai University and has done postgraduate diploma in management in sales and marketing. He has worked with Air Sahara, Jetlight, Reliance, HCC Aviation, Indamar Aviation at different positions. Let me now welcome Mr. Manish to share some light on aviation grade disinfection products. Thank you. Mr. Manish.
Good morning, everybody. After a long session and a knowledgeable session from our CEO, Dr. Praveen Srivastava, let me introduce few products. And I'll just share a screen for, these are the few products which we have introduced. That is the onboard interior cleaning kit. That is an onboard interior cleaning kit, which will include leather cleaner, leather conditioner, fabric and carpet, spot cleaner, metal cleaner and shine, wood veneer shine, glass cleaner, ink remover, and gum and wax remover. So this is what the kit what we have. It will come in the next screen. This is the kit which is easy to carry on board. And suppose if there is an ink mark, which will cost you a hell lot of money to remove the ink mark. So if you have a small ink remover on board along with this kit, you can do it immediately. So the next product what we are going to introduce is the Net Biochem DSM and the cabin Kiosk 320 wipes. That is for cabin and cockpit communication system cleaning. After that is our hand sanitizer, which is 72% alcohol and a gel base,
So
and
Manish,
which is CD.
I will ask a question to you. Can you go to the previous slide where you said
Sure.
you have disinfectants? Now, are these disinfectants alcohol-based or water-based?
No, these are water-based disinfectants.
And what approvals do these have?
They have the main approval what you require for any disinfectant or any product to be used on the aircraft. It is an AMS approved. These products are AMS approved and WHO approved, so you don't need to worry on the approval. So AMS approved
and is it Airbus or Boeing approved as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that means it can be used for airlines, and obviously when it can be used for
airlines, and it has an Textron approval, Honeywell approval. So all these approvals are also there, as you have already shared with the participants.
Okay.
So guys, thank you very much. It was nice to have this call, and I will pass it on to Vikas.
So before it goes to Vikas, while you disengage, I would like to really request all the participants here, if they have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer you. As I repeatedly have been telling since the beginning, please feel free to ask your question. You can unmute yourself and you can ask any question that comes to your mind regarding disinfection, cleaning, or sanitization of the aircraft, cabin, cockpit, galley, lab, because this is the area which is most prone to various kind of contamination. There are many people who come in. Mostly, I'll tell you what happens. Before any crew gets on board, there are n number of other people who get inside the aircraft, inside the cabin, to organize everything, to do the checks, to do the maintenance, to do everything else. And that is the time when there is high chance of contamination, because the more the movement, the more the chance of contamination. So I think as aircraft owners or as maintenance organizations, what you should do and what should insist your every operator or everybody who enters the aircraft to do is, number one, of course, sanitize himself, and number two, limit the number of people who enter the aircraft. Let them wear PPE, because at least what happens in the maintenance, many a times, because there is a hurry to release the aircraft, to sign off the aircraft. So what happens is I have seen, because I have worked with most of the renowned MROs in India, so not sounding offensive to them, but at the same time, we have to ensure as operators that the maintenance organization equally takes care of everybody who enters the aircraft. They are properly sanitized. The PPE is one-time use. It's not it's not a raincoat. So they can't, nobody can wear the PPE, then remove the PPE and again wear the PPE. No, that's not the way it is to be used. So you have to ensure that, first of all, limit the number of people who go inside. This may increase a little bit of task of the cabin crew, but never mind. Nothing is more important than life. So let's be a little more wise. I would recommend that limit the number of people who enter the aircraft, clean the aircraft yourself if possible, or at least let them clean only the galley part or even the aisle part, and then rest of the things you can clean it yourself, or at least maintain a lot of hygiene. Even if there is a cleaning staff which comes on board, ensure that only one cleaning staff comes, or maximum two of them. And even if it costs a little to give them a PPE kit, ensure that the PPE kit is supplied by you. You give it to them before they get into the aircraft. Right from top to bottom, they wear the PPE, their hands are sanitized, they wear the PPE, then go inside the aircraft, clean it, come out, and once they come out, they shouldn't be able to go in again. They shouldn't be allowed to go in. So they remove the PPE and throw it off or take it home.
Dr. Praveen, we have one more question from Mr. Sanjeev Arora, who is asking about how to dispose of disinfectant material after use on aircraft. Any special precautions?
Yes, this is a very good question. This is a very good question. Highly appreciate. It's very technical. So I would put it as simple. How do we dispose of the used tissue papers? Okay. So if there is a used tissue paper, the right way to do is when you wipe it like this, fold it like this. So I will show you with an example. I have my handkerchief here. So suppose this is the wipe, or this is the cloth which you are using for the disinfection. So you either spray and then use this cloth like this, and then or put it on this and then wipe all the surfaces with this, and then in ideal cases you have to fold it like this, so that your hand, because it is your safety, your hand doesn't touch this surface. So ideally you should do it like this. Even if you're wearing a gloves, remember you're wearing a gloves, but what are you doing? You are if you wipe it like this and this is contaminated, and then your gloves touch this, and then you put the same gloves in your pocket. Now what happens? Your pocket is contaminated. When you remove the gloves, you're not going to remove your whole trouser or the shirt or the pullover. So what you're going to do is you're going to use your raw hand. At that time, the chances. So ideally, what one should do is not, wipe it like this, fold it like this, and then carry a bag in which you can dispose it of, or put it in a trash bin.
I think we have got only a few minutes left. So thank you everyone for joining us in this meeting. So I would like to thank our panelists as well who have joined us today for this workshop. Remember, it's time to fly again. So let's be prepared to soar high in the sky. So this is Vikas Arya signing off by wishing you a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.
I will add a closing note to this. For all of those people who attended this seminar, first of all, the workshop, sorry. First of all, thank you so much. You are the ones who are so careful. You want to know things. We will conduct another similar workshop again. If you have any queries, please put on those queries. Please send those queries to us by email or WhatsApp. You have Manish's number. Please send those queries. We'll be more than happy to get back to you with all the answers that we have. And even if we do not have, I have a lot of medical doctors, a lot of disinfectant professionals, virologists on our panel who can answer these for you. We can get back to you with their advices, and we can also give you a lot of product support. We can give you a lot of technical support. This is all complimentary because it's the aviation fraternity which needs to safeguard itself. You are the first point of contact. So when you are going to fly the aircraft, or you're going to manage the aircraft, or you're going to maintain the aircraft, you are the first one who gets in touch with any surface or the aircraft interior. The passenger comes late next. So the chances of you getting infected is very, very high. And of course, when you fly with the passenger, then furthermore, you have further chance of getting contaminated. So let's maintain a lot of hygiene. Let's maintain sanitization habits. Let's form sanitization habits. Let's do disinfection of the cabin regularly, and we'll be more than happy to support you. Any other question?
Our participants, you can either send an email to Mr. Manish. His email ID is manish.b@aerochamp.net. You can also, you will be also having his cell phone number. You can always dial in and ask for your queries to him. So thank you everyone. Thanks a lot. Safe flying.
Thank you. Cheers everybody, and safe landings and happy flying. Take good care of yourselves. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time.